You're listening to the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to this 53rd episode of the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast. I am your host, Sean. I'm the senior editor here at post-apocalypticmedia.com. And I do this little thing each week where I talk about, latest post-apocalyptic news. So here I am talking about it. Now, the crazy thing is this is almost the end of the year. We're in December. We're coming up on the end of 2021. Into 2022, and of course that's how that works. And it's just one of those things where it's kind of crazy. Like, we think about the pandemic and we think about that was almost 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like it was the beginning of 2020, and here we are, almost 2 years later, still just mucking around in this, you know what I mean? And it's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, so that's a little dose of real, apocalypse right there, which I have some news that has to do with, survival and real post-apocalyptic kind of stuff toward the end of the show. But before I do that, let's talk about the glorious fictional post-apocalyptic stuff. So, as you know, probably, or if you don't, if you're new to this podcast, we talk about all the latest post-apocalyptic news over at Post-Apocalyptic Media. And you can get there by going to postapocalyptic.com. You can also go to postapocalypticmedia.com, but, that's a mouthful. And so I just say postapocalyptic.com because we have that as well. So when you go there, you're going to see some of the latest news. You're also going to see some of the top 5 movies of all time, top 5 shows of all time. We also have a writing contest right on the front page right there, which will be running out next week. It actually expires, or deadline, that's the word I'm thinking of. The deadline for that writing contest is next week. And we have a lot of really great submissions. I'm excited about presenting the awards for that. That's going to be fun. It's always good to give money away, right? And it does have a cash reward, cash prize, I guess would be a more appropriate term for that. So yeah, if you haven't turned in your short story, your post-apocalyptic short story yet, you still have about a week left. I think it's Saturday, a week from Saturday. So about a week, a little over a week to turn that in. And again, that's, between 3,000 to 5,000 words, post-apocalyptic. You have to be 18 or over, a couple little rules like that. But when you go to the website, it's right there. Giant picture of a pen on a pad of paper, and it says short story writing contest 2021. And that'll give you all the details right there. And I'm hoping, we've had a lot of great submissions, so I would call this already a success. But if this is, a big success, as Borat would say, big success, then this, we'll do it again. We'll do it next year, in the year after. So I'm excited about that because this was kind of a baby of mine. I brought to the higher ups and said, hey, we should do a writing contest. So I'm excited about it. Personally excited about it. All right. And by higher ups, by the way, I mean Derek and Stephanie. If you've watched this podcast a few months ago, they were all, they're on it. So that's the higher ups I'm talking about. Yeah, good times. Okay, so let's get into the news, the news about actual media, post-apocalyptic media. Now, one of my favorite news bits this week, there actually are quite a few, but Raised by Wolves it's already been acknowledged to have a second season. We already knew that, when we watched season 1. And I love this show. I just recently actually caught up to it and watched the whole thing, and I love it. That's like right up my alley. I mean, Ridley Scott, are you kidding me? So there's a new teaser trailer for season 2, and they also give a release date of February of 2022. So that's right around the corner. This is December. It's like 2 months away, 2 months away is not that long. February 3rd, actually. So it's less than 2 months away. February 3rd, 2022. It'll be on both HBO and HBO Max. Now, this trailer I have to say it has me more excited than I thought it would be. I mean, I love the show. I really loved it. But the way they made the trailer, they put all the action together in one little 2-minute spot. Sure, that's how they do it. But you see all the regulars. You see, of course, you see Mother, you see Father, you see Campion, you see Marcus, Sue, all the rest of the kids. Now, I'm not going to give any spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen season 1, because I think it's good to go into that kind of not knowing what's going on. It makes it a little bit better experience. But you see all the regulars. You notice that a lot of people are back. You notice that Marcus has especially been going through some changes. Mother is kind of, where we left her off at the end of season 1. So it's a good trailer. I think you should definitely check it out if if you watch season 1, you enjoyed it. We got HBO Max I have this tendency, well, in my family at least, we have this tendency of getting, the free trials for these things. We get the AMC Plus free trial. We get the Paramount Plus free trial. We get the HBO Max free trial. We do this in kind of cycles. I mean, that's what everybody does, right? Admit it. That's you have like 15 emails and then you just go through. I mean, yeah, it's cool. You're in good company. We know how that goes. So, but every once in a while, we'll get a little lazy and we'll stick with one. We're like, oh, well, something good's coming up. Let's go ahead and just keep it. We'll pay for it for a couple months. So that's where we're at right now with HBO Max. We have Station 11 coming up in next week. And, we just caught it. We basically got it. We got HBO Max to watch Dune, and then we kept it to finish up Raised by Wolves season 1, and then now we're waiting for Station 11, and then it's like, well, we'll just keep it a couple more months. We'll keep it a little bit longer just to watch season 2. I mean, that's how they get you, right? They just string you along. So that's where we're at. So HBO, you got us. Good job, great job, marketing department. You've spaced these things out just well enough to where you're keeping me going for that. What is it, $8.99 a month or something like that? It's like super cheap, but that's how that goes. Okay, so next little bit of news is about, this is actually a big one. This is about Walking Dead. It's actually about Fear the Walking Dead. Now, a couple days ago, last week, Scott Gimple was talking about there's some big news coming on The Talking Dead, which is like the talk show that happens after, the regular show. Well, we're in a little hiatus here where we're in between parts of season 11 in The Walking Dead, right? So a lot of people are watching Fear the Walking Dead and World Beyond. So he said, we have some big news coming up. Watch The Talking Dead. There's going to be some big news. Well, immediately everyone's like, Rick Grimes movie? What? Rick Grimes trilogy? Is it coming out? Are we going to have Rick Grimes on the show? And so he had to come back and say, whoa, okay, sorry, no Rick Grimes. I guess he didn't expect that. I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't expect that. A lot of people got excited. But anyway, so the real news is Fear the Walking Dead is coming back for its 8th season. And they're bringing back Madison Clark, that's the character name. The actress's name is Kim Dickens. She was on seasons 1 through 4. And so they're bringing her back, a few seasons later. And it's some big news. They say that her first appearance will be actually in the second half of season 7. So she won't even you won't even have to wait until season 8 to see her. She'll be coming back in the second half of season 7, which is coming back on April 17th on AMC. So we have that. And then all episodes of Fear the Walking Dead will be available, are still available 1 week early on AMC Plus. That's the plus is that 1 week early, and they do that with Walking Dead too. That's another one. Actually, they just had a Black Friday sale. And if you haven't taken advantage of that, I am sorry. It's $1.99 a month, and I think it's for 6 months. I'm pretty sure it's 6 months. I'm not sure. I have so many of these little things. Like we got Hulu for 99 cents. They brought that Black Friday deal back. So between, 99 cents a month Hulu for a year, $1.99 AMC Plus for 6 months, whatever it is, free trials everywhere, right? Man, this is a good time to be alive right here. Beginning of December, when you have all these channels on these Black Friday deals. It's a good time. Good time to be alive. All right, so that's the news. That was the big news. That was the big Walking Dead news. Bringing back Kim Dickens, and Fear the Walking Dead will be enjoying an 8th season next year, sometime next year. I don't think they gave an actual date because they're not even done with season 7 yet. You know, it's as they do. They break these up. You know, they have a big break in between, and that's what they're doing with this. So, all right. Next little bit of news. I particularly like this news because I'm a big fan of this man. Nick Offerman is joining the cast of The Last of Us. Okay, so if you're thinking, who's Nick Offerman? I mean, first of all, just leave right now. I mean, Nick Offerman. We all know Nick Offerman, right? Parks and Rec, right? I mean, we all know and love him as Mr. Ron Swanson, right? Some of the greatest lines in TV history are spoken by Mr. Ron Swanson. If you're not a fan, I mean, it's not post-apocalyptic, so, you know, I get it. If you're, you know, we have to branch out sometimes. We have to enjoy these comedies, but Parks and Rec is a great show. Ron Swanson is a great character. He's kind of my spirit animal, you know. There's a scene, one of my favorite scenes of all time. My wife, like when we saw this scene, she's like, "That's you." He's in a round desk, and this woman comes up to ask him a question, and he just turns his chair very slowly to avoid her, and she keeps walking around this circular desk saying, "Sir, sir, sir," and he just keeps turning to avoid her, but he's just doing it really slowly. Oh, it's so perfect. Anyway, yeah, if you haven't seen that, watch that, and then you'll be ready for I'm sure it's a totally different character in The Last of Us, because actually he plays Bill is this character that was in The Last of Us, the first one, and he's just like this scavenger guy, and he's this curmudgeon, you know, which is perfect for Ron Swanson, you know, for the Ron Swanson character. I don't think he's going to be as funny. Who knows? He might be, but I don't see him being as funny as he was in Parks and Rec, that character of Ron Swanson. But just imagine, you know, just imagine Ron Swanson as Bill from The Last of Us. So I'm excited about that. You know, he wasn't a huge character in the game, but he could be in the show. We never know, you know. And he's going to join, of course, Joel and Ellie, the characters in The Last of Us, are played by Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. This has, you know, been news for a few months now, but I'm excited about that. I mean, Pedro Pascal he's the Mandalorian, right? He is in some of my favorite movies. I love The Mandalorian, but also The Prospect. You ever see Prospect? That is a great movie. It's like my kind of ultimate post-apocalyptic, well, besides Mad Max, is like, you know, a stranded astronaut on a foreign planet, and he has to survive. I mean, that's some cool stuff. Like, there's a new game that just came out called Icarus, and it's Prospect. Actually, they even call the things prospects that you land on, but it's perfect. That's my perfect kind of thing. I love that kind of thing. That's a great game. It's not entirely post-apocalyptic. It's more of a survival game, but it's just enough where I can talk about it on this show. I think that's fair game. Anyway, so yeah, you can expect Nick Offerman, aka Ron Swanson, to be on The Last of Us, and that is another HBO. I was just talking about HBO hooking me in, and here we go, you know, more HBO stuff. So that is something to look forward to. All right, now let's get into some news it's kind of more non-fiction. You know, it's stuff that's happening right now, and it could turn into something post-apocalyptic. And we like to talk about this stuff on the site. You know, every once in a while, we like to talk about survival. We like to talk about prepping, but we also like to talk about crazy, real news. You know, stuff that could potentially mean the end of us. It's scary, you know, but it's true. So this first one is about, we had a lot of earthquakes here in America on the West Coast, actually up in the Pacific Northwest, up near Oregon. There were 40 earthquakes in 24 hours. Now, why am I talking? I mean, this isn't the Weather Channel, right? But 40 earthquakes in 24 hours happening in the same area. This is around Newport, Oregon. And the thing about this is it's kind of scary. It's kind of, end of the world kind of thing. Now, these weren't huge earthquakes. I mean, they range from 3.5 to 5.8 on the Richter scale. And 5.8 is getting up there. 3.5 is kind of a little shaking the ground, things like that. But for there to be that many within a 200-mile radius is what they're saying. This is right on a fault line. I forget what the name of that fault line is, but it's called, it says it's the Blanco Fracture Zone. I'm reading here on my screen. The Blanco Fracture Zone, which is, it says it's more active than the infamous San Andreas Fault in California. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, that whole area, the whole West Coast, just west of the Rockies is basically two plates, hitting each other right there. So it's, there's lots of earthquakes there. It says San Andreas Fault has had 1,500 quakes, multitude 4.0 or higher since the 70s. So, and then of course that's down in California, so it's not as high up as Oregon. But it's crazy news because earthquakes, of course, are kind of a sign of the apocalypse, if all this stuff's happening at once. So all of you out there in the Pacific Northwest, be careful, be safe. Get your bug out bags ready, get your solar panels ready because, if in case it knocks out the grid, just be ready. This is the kind of thing you don't have to only be ready for like a nuclear war or a zombie apocalypse, which is what a lot of, people like to make fun of preppers and say, oh, you're making preparations for a zombie apocalypse. No, things happen all the time. Right. So yeah. Stay safe up there. Be ready. Be prepared. Helps out a lot. All right. And speaking of climate, there's something the Australians are doing. They're actually doing it in New Zealand. But the Australian scientists are looking to create an indestructible storage device that will hold information that will kind of record humanity's handling of the climate change crisis, So, and this can get, really political. I know some people, the spectrum goes both ways. People either don't believe that there is a climate crisis at all. And on the other side of that, people believe that the climate crisis is what's causing everything from the earthquakes that that I just talked about, to tornadoes, to the tsunamis, to the weather being too hot or too cold. I mean, it just runs the gamut, right? So, these Australian scientists are kind of tired of people. This is the way I take it. They're tired of people rewriting history and saying there is no climate crisis or there is one or whatever. So they want to make sure they're just recording the way that we're handling this. And I don't know what that means exactly. I don't know if it means that they're recording from like the news, because you can't do that, right? You can't record what the news says and say, here is history, brought to you by CNN, sponsored by Pfizer. No, you can't, you can't do that. It has to be actual scientific data, recorded. And I imagine that's what they're going to do. And so they're calling this a black box. They're calling it Earth's black box. And the reason they're doing that, of course, if you're familiar with the way airlines work and commercial airlines, is they have a black box, an indestructible box, that if the plane crashes, it will record the information from the plane, what happened at that time, the communications that were happening at the time, like statistical data, on what's happening with the plane and all that. And it's in an indestructible box so that you can go back and check it and see what happened, right? So this makes total sense, I think. They're saying we're going to make this black box for the Earth. So if something happens to the Earth, if there's an apocalypse, we'll have this black box to be able to go back and say, oh, okay, well, they put too much faith in this and not enough in this, or they spent too much money doing this and not this, Now, the thing is, hopefully at that point, whatever media they're going to record it on, I mean, I'd have to basically write it on notebook paper, right? Because anything else, who knows if it'll work after the apocalypse. And here's the way I look at it. Now, we just talked about Nick Offerman's character and how much I love him, and he's a curmudgeon. Well, I'm a curmudgeon when it comes to this. I'm skeptical on, first of all, like I said, what kind of information they're going to put in there. Is it going to be, is it going to be like different sides recording their own stories, their own sides of what's happening? I don't know. But second of all, politics, politics can kind of open a black box, in my opinion. They say it's indestructible, but I think politics it can get to the point where politics could change what's being recorded, and I firmly believe that. And that's definitely not taking one side or the other. That's either side could do that, both sides could do that, that's the way I see it. So to record something like a black box, to record information and put it in something like a black box, it seems like they're putting a lot of faith in the idea that no one will mess with this. I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, it gets very dystopian when you think about not a physical destruction, but a political destruction. It's sure the physical destruction could be there at some point of the earth. But there's going to be some kind of rewriting in there, I think. And there's going to be some kind of cover up type thing. There's going to be, you know what I mean? I don't trust the rich people who make all the decisions in this world. So I think I don't know. I'm probably not alone in that. I would imagine a lot of you out there are probably, fans of the post-apocalypse are a little tad on the pessimistic side when it comes to faith in the higher ups, right? Who's with me? High fives. So yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how this kind of works out. They're going to start building the box in 2022. They're going to put it on a remote West Coast section of Tasmania. I think I said New Zealand. It's actually Tasmania is where they're putting it. The University of Tasmania is in on this. They're cooperating with them. And a lot of it has to do also with the UN itself. Here's a quote from the executive creative director at Clemenger BBDO, which he's the group that came up with the idea. He says, Earth's black box is a structure and device that will record every step that humanity takes toward or away from the impending climate catastrophe. So that's important. Toward or away from this impending climate catastrophe. So it sounds like they just want to make sure that they're, recording what's going on and kind of, keep close notes on it and see what happens. So I think that's probably a good idea. I think it's something that should have been done a long time ago. I think that's something that should be done with history. History is rewritten all the time. It's been rewritten for hundreds of years. I just wish there was some kind of black box where we could, some kind of neutral ground where people can't mess with that. So that would be awesome. Yeah, but that's about it for the news and, both fictional and non-fictional. Now, I was talking earlier at the start of the show about the site, and of course I'm going to plug the site. Of course I'm going to talk great about the site because it's, it's the site for this podcast. But if you go to the site, we also have tons of reviews. And right now we have, The Walking Dead, World Beyond, and Fear the Walking Dead are the kind of the two big ones going on right now. So there's reviews. Stephanie writes reviews on each one of those. We have season 2, episode 10, review and recap. We have Fear the Walking Dead, season 7, episode 8, recap. She actually wrote a couple different things about World Beyond, season 2, episode 10, including a post-credits virus revelation. That sounds pretty cool. So yeah, the Walking Dead stuff, the Walking Dead world universe is pretty big right now. Especially we have the Walking Dead, the OG show itself is coming back in spring, early or late winter. So we have that to look forward to. And then, the rest of the show is kind of continuing on, except for World Beyond. I think that's ending after this season. So that's about it for that. We also have a book review. Tina did a book review for The Raven, which is a book that came out just last year. She's been making videos for these too. So if you want to check out a video review of these books, Tina's been making those and putting them on our YouTube channel. So you can check that out as well. She also did a recap for The Expanse, which is the Amazon show. The Expanse, it's like the space, post-apocalyptic space show. So if you haven't seen that, you can check out this article she wrote recapping everything to get you ready for season 6. Season 6 is coming up. Yes, season 6 of that show. Can you believe that? I remember watching the first season. I haven't caught up since then, but I remember watching the first season and just being like, this is pretty good. And then all of a sudden, what? Season 6 is coming up? Yeah, time flies, huh? So, yeah, check those out. Check out the reviews. There's a Muv-Love Alternative episode 9 review as well. I didn't mention that. Bill did, I mentioned last podcast, Bill did a Christmas Carols from Jonathan post, an article. And he did another one about Rod Serling's take on a classic Christmas story. That's interesting. Rod Serling, of course, from Twilight Zone. So you can check that out. And then, of course, I did my YouTube roundup, which is the best post-apocalyptic videos of the week. That's exciting. That's always exciting, right? Right? It's actually really fun to write because I spend so much time on YouTube going through and looking for post-apocalyptic stuff and Kickstarter. I do that too. And it's kind of cool to just kind of compile them and, put them together. Another thing, we have the end of the year awards coming up. This is something we've been preparing for. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but we've been talking at the site. We've been talking about our picks. We're all kind of compiling. We're in the compilation stage right now of compiling our favorite movies, TV shows, books, all the different media types. And then we do an awards post for it, an awards article. So last year was our first year for that. We call it the Boomies, which is a great name. I think Derek came up with that name, the Boomies. So we are doing that again this year. We'll probably post that at the very end of the year, like the last week of December. And I think you'll be surprised. I mean, when we get together and we talk about our favorite movies and TV shows and all that, we kind of go through, we look at lists, we do IMDb and Wiki, and we're looking at all these different lists of all the things that have released this year. And we're always like, oh yeah, that one that released this year. Oh, that was a great show. And so we're kind of doing that. And I'm not going to go through the whole process, but we're picking our favorites, the whole site, all the writers, and we're picking for each category. And one of the ones that I'm really excited about is comics. That's a little spoiler there. I'll give you a little spoiler. We're adding a comics category this year. And I'm a huge comic nerd. I've been reading comics since I was probably, 11, 12 years old, maybe, right around there, with the old G.I. Joe comics I used to read back in the late 80s. Yes, late 80s. G.I. Joe. I still have those comics too. Nom was another one I used to read a lot. Transformers, stuff like that. And Star Wars too. I used to love Star Wars. But I'm huge into the post-apocalyptic ones, of course, and I don't write about them enough. But that's why I'm excited to do this category and kind of go through and talk about my favorite comics of 2021. Now that's the ones that just released in 2021. There were so many of them. There's like a dozen and a half probably. Something like that. There's a lot of them that released this year. So yeah. And what I'll probably do is after we do the awards, we'll probably, hopefully, this is the plan, get all on the podcast and talk about our favorites on the podcast itself. We did that last year so that, you get the awards post itself, you get to see the winners, but then we'll go back and we'll talk about it on the podcast. So that is something to look forward to. We'll probably do the podcast like the first week of the year, something like that, because the post will come out the last week of 2021. So yeah, we have all that to look forward to. I'm excited about that. This is a great time of year. Holidays, end of the year stuff, which is always fun. Lists, compilations. It's kind of my favorite thing. These are a few of my favorite things. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening to me ramble on about my favorite topic ever. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, if you are not subscribed, you can do that either on YouTube. We're still releasing audio versions on YouTube, even though there's a video. And we also have the actual audio itself, which is probably what you're listening to right now. And then we have the site. You can go on the site and you can check out the different recordings there. But just make sure you subscribe, because that's how we know that you love us, talking about this stuff. So thanks again for listening, everyone. And remember to stay alive out there and always be ready for the big one. Thanks.